Hello, my name is Scott Howe. I'm the editorial analyst for Commercial UAV News. And today we'll be talking about the way CloudFactory is making aerial inspection a reality with LineVision. As most of you know, aerial inspections are one of the most widely used and most advanced uses of commercial drones. And there are many companies advancing the use of technology for these applications. Chief among them is CloudFactory. And today we are fortunate to be speaking with Nihit Trivedi. He's the enterprise account executive in geospatial and aerial for CloudFactory. And in this role, he leads CloudFactory's sales efforts in the spatial sector, helping companies extract valuable insights from data collected via drones, aircraft, or satellites. Nihit, thank you for talking with us today.
Thank you, Scott. It's great to be here.
Yeah. Before we get started, tell us a little bit about CloudFactory and what role the company plays in the UAV industry.
Yeah, sure. So CloudFactory is an exciting company. It was founded 12 years ago. Our founder, Mark Sears, moved from Canada to Nepal to create a company that created meaningful work. And now we have team members in Nepal, Kenya, and other parts of the world, over 7,000 people, who take on repetitive data work. Could be simple work, could be complex work across a range of industries. And in terms of the UAV industry, we've been working with companies in the geospatial industry, UAV industry for the last 6-7 years. We've actually worked with close to 100 clients in this area, and this is dealing with or processing data that's captured via satellites, captured via airplanes, UAV, drones, terrestrially as well, across a range of sectors from from energy to forestry and agriculture and many other sectors.
So what is CloudFactory seeing in the industrial inspection and digital twin industry? And what is the role of drones rather, and UAVs in that sector?
Yeah, great question. So I would say that, computer vision has been around for a long time. Perception technologies have been around for a long time, but certainly there's been a growth in leveraging these types of technologies. Let's say starting about 6 or 7 years ago at CloudFactory, we started working with clients who are using satellite data, aerial data, 2D data, orthomosaics for all sorts of different applications. And we would annotate that data, label it, extract different features and insights from that data. Over the last several years, as we all know, we've seen a growth really in the use of drones because the cost of drones is coming down and because the regulatory framework is becoming more kind of open and understanding and clear, and to LiDAR, because the cost of LiDAR is also dropping. So from kind of the autonomous vehicle days, now we're seeing a lot of aerial applications of LiDAR and digital twins. And so to answer your question kind of on inspections and digital twins, what we're seeing a lot more of now, particularly given the investments from the government and other parts of the economy in inspections, we're seeing a lot of people using drones for inspecting everything from bridges and roads and railroads and let's say oil and gas infrastructure. We work on a number of clients, a number of these areas I just mentioned. But to also, I say a lot more now, use of digital twins. We're seeing this particularly, I would say, in the utility industry, where utilities and the companies that work with utilities are looking to leverage LiDAR and drones and UAVs to create a digital twin to understand everything from needs around maintenance to fire hazard risks is a big one, and just understand kind of what's happening in there's network. And so those are some of the trends that I've been seeing certainly over the last 2-3 years.
Let's talk about one of your clients. I understand LineVision is a client of yours. Tell us about their role in the industry.
Yeah, LineVision is just a really interesting, exciting company. I'm based in the Boston area in Massachusetts, and there's an exciting hub here called Greentown Labs in Somerville, Mass. And one of the founders of LineVision a year ago was giving a talk, and I happened to attend. And I went up to him afterwards and talked to him, and just was really exciting to hear what LineVision is doing. I didn't know it could be done. But basically, in a nutshell, what they do is they work with utilities, and they help utilities understand how to increase and safely capacity on their power lines. And the way they do that, if you think about it, a power line is like a highway, right? It's a highway for electrons. So that power line, that highway is built with a certain capacity, a certain, let's just say width. Imagine 4 lanes of a highway. Now that transmission line may typically only have 2 lanes in use for safety reasons, right? and the other two are not in use. And so there's only so many electrons going through. But with solar being intermittent, wind being intermittent, other resources, renewable energy sources coming onto the grid, we can actually use the rest of that those two lanes safely if we understand what's happening on that power line at any given time. And that's what LineVision does, is provide dynamic line ratings and other insights to utilities to increase the capacity of their power line without spending and building a bunch of new power lines.
Okay. So what kinds of challenges was LineVision facing, and how did you help them?
Yeah. So, when I met the founder of LineVision and started speaking to their team, what they shared with us is, they're growing in a couple of ways. One, they're growing with new clients, and two, within their existing clients. And so they have essentially a sensor, which I'll talk about in a second here, that they put on the power line. But basically, what they were trying to do is capture in a kind of ground truth baseline for a set of spans between two transmission towers, for example. It could be multiple spans. So in order to capture that baseline, that digital twin 3D baseline, they would hire a company in different part of the country. There's different small companies around the country, as you know, that do provide these services, that can fly UAV and capture this data and provide it back. In addition, LineVision needed that data processed in a certain way, and insights extracted. And it was very hard for them to scale, to constantly hire and manage so many different companies and then educate them every time about what data they needed extracted from it.
Okay. So what types of data were they capturing, and how were they using it?
Yeah, so the type of data that they're capturing is basically a 3D point cloud rendering of the spans. So they have that baseline. And the way that they use that data is that data creates, like I said, that ground truth baseline of what's happening, let's say, today. Then subsequently, they install a sensor on the transmission tower that essentially looks up at the power lines and the infrastructure and can tell in real time the amount of sag that's there, the amount, wind if it's shaking, and other different attributes about what's happening in real time. But in order to get that difference, to say it's sagging or it's not sagging, you need a baseline. And so that's what basically that data is being extracted. Now, what we would do in particular, and the way we're helping them, is we get these point cloud files, and we are extracting very specific information for them. For example, this is the power line, this is the insulator, here's exactly where it's located, here's where their equipment is. All of that to get a very accurate, complete understanding of what's happening on the ground in that moment.
Okay. Given all that work that you did with LineVision, can you share any of the results of that work?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually went through a review and analysis and tried to understand from their perspective how we've helped them in their business. And what they said was, historically they had been going through this process, finding this company. They want to capture the data. They would have to teach them exactly what they needed. They get the data back. We've been able to reduce that cycle by about 2/3, particularly the key parts of the data processing part of it. And that enables, of course, LineVision to more quickly get their sensors on the transmission towers and help the utilities evaluate and certainly leverage this technology. The second piece is data accuracy. We have the ability to look at that data and certainly extract insights from it within 1 centimeter precision, because it's point cloud data, but also because of our ability to really understand exactly where that point is in space and provide that data back to LineVision. The third piece is what we found, and what they've said to us is, we've exceeded their expectations. It was certainly a complex task, understanding both the infrastructure and then handling point cloud data that we're handling in the way we are. And we're able to work across various time zones, so we can actually work when it's night here in the States and turn around data, sometimes even within a day after we received it. So that's really helped LineVision more quickly deploy their technology and build credibility and a good experience with their clients.
Well, that's great. I have one final question.
Sure.
Based on your experience, what would you recommend for other enterprises who are pursuing industrial automation and AI?
Yeah. So I'll share a couple ideas. One I think is going to be obvious to anyone watching this, but I'll state it regardless because it's important that folks who are leveraging data about the real world, building a machine model on top of that, using perception data, there has to be a good amount of data, and it has to be well annotated, well labeled, and accurately labeled. Of course, having that good data and makes the model good. Having bad data and garbage in, garbage out, as everyone knows. The one thing that I'll share that maybe not everyone doesn't know is, at this point now, I've spoken with literally hundreds of people in the infrastructure inspection, digital twin space, to hundreds of potential clients, people in the industry. And a common concern I hear about working with CloudFactory or even other partners, but in particular us, is, hey, we have an internal team. We have an internal team of 3 people or 30 people who have been looking at utilities for the last 10 years. And so they can tell, if there's rust on an insulator, or if, something's happening that shouldn't be happening. How do we know that your team can do that? And what we found is actually a lot of companies who used to do this work internally in their company, the folks who are doing it are not actually trained to spend the whole day in front of a computer. They're trained to be on the field or interact with clients, or they have some other skill. And so there's a level of fatigue that they get, and a level of quality degradation that happens, not just in utilities, but we see this in bridge inspections, as I mentioned before. We see this in oil and gas. Certainly, we do a lot of work there. In forestry, we do a lot of work. So a number of industries. So my one piece of feedback would be, feel free to reach out to us, engage with us. We're happy to review data and just give frank feedback about our ability to process it and provide good outputs. And I think last thing I'll say is, I think the world needs it, right? We're in an important phase and needing to continually invest in our infrastructure, particularly here in the US. And so we're excited to be a part of that and support the many companies who are working with industry.
Great. Nihit, thank you for your time and your insights, and all the best to you and your team at CloudFactory.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you. For Commercial UAV News, I'm Scott Howe. Thank you all for watching.